if it's streaming. I'm going to continue to study the stuff from yesterday to build the visualization sites. Things are a lot more clear now in my mind. Not sure how long I'm gonna stay here, but I'm gonna put the timer for 1 hour and a half. So before I get into that, I want to talk about this thing here, because I think this is the problem with AGI, is that people don't respect it enough, because like it's a very weird thing that happens. Because okay, if you talk about nuclear weapons, everyone I think respects a lot more. But if you're talking about the dangers of AGI, it's like people for some reason they think it's crazy or it's outside of the realm of possibilities. It's like kind of insane. What happens is like the disconnection, and I think the reason why this happens is because it's too abstract for people to understand like all the possible consequences. But pretty much what's happening now is that we're scaling exponentially our ability to come up with creative ways to destroy ourselves. That's pretty much what's happening. And we are making it easier and easier over time to allow more people to have this power of destroying everyone. And this is why this is extremely important. And I think like some people that might watch this might think I'm crazy, but I think like if you know someone that has a lot of influence and power, you should talk to them and pressure them into making some kind of action. Like, I don't believe that we should be violent or anything like that. I'm not advocating for that, but we need to have more regulation over this stuff, and we need to do everything that we can to slow this down at scale. And there's also a lot of things that I've seen that people argue that the genie is out of the box, and I think that is a very strong argument. But the problem with that is that it's like, imagine you're discussing with someone, and then you both have a gun, and because you think that there's a high probability the other person will shoot you, you point the gun to your head and say like, well, they're gonna shoot me anyway, so I might as well kill myself faster. That's pretty much what the argument is. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. At some point, someone has to give up control, because like, at least this is not a guarantee that it will increase the probabilities that the transition towards AGI will have higher odds of being in alignment with whatever life is, but at least increases the chances that it will. And that's the thing, if you don't do anything about it, then you're just allowing it to accelerate faster and increasing the probabilities exponentially of something bad happening. And I was already concerned, obviously, about this, but after watching these interviews from Eliezer yesterday, it's like I'm even more concerned now. And I think a lot of people also, they like that I've seen, they say that like this is a doomer mentality, but I disagree with that. It's just being realistic. I think that most people that don't understand this are in denial about the severity of the situation. Like, imagine you knew for a fact that an asteroid is gonna hit Earth very soon, or that an alien intelligence is gonna invade Earth. This is debatable because aliens, like, there's a whole nother like a spectrum of debate inside of that. But like, imagine you know for sure that a catastrophe is gonna happen, or there is gonna be a nuclear war. Like, let's say like there's 80% of probability that there's gonna be a nuclear war in the next year. I guarantee you that people like, probably most people would still be in denial, because it just doesn't seem real to them, because everyone's caught up in their routine. But if the nukes actually start flying and then it disrupts the whole supply chain, even if it doesn't kill everyone, which is even worse, in my opinion, with a situation where we have something that destroys the supply chain, and then have a lot of unemployment, for example, and then civil wars start breaking all over the place, then like, all of a sudden we're not going to be in the same place anymore. Like, it's going to be just a bunch of people killing each other. And that's just one of the countless things that can go wrong with advancing AI and making it available for everyone. And I think that the people that are creating these AIs, people from Open and AI, they have the same position. Like, it's not they are disagreeing with things. They are probably even more concerned than everyone else because they understand like the monster that they are creating. When I say this, like I don't mean in a way that is obviously that the AI will be like a bad being. That's not what I'm saying. Is that the overall general picture of the system is like, it's just you're increasing the probabilities that everything is gonna collapse. So it's like playing poker, and then you know you're gonna lose the hand, like 80% probability, and you don't have the pot odds to put all your chips in, but you put the chips in anyway because like you think that if you don't do, you're gonna lose anyway. So it's like one of the situations where like, I don't know, something needs to be done about it, and something needs to be done fast. And yeah. And I've been thinking about this for a very long time, but like still even saying this thing now, like I'm kind of concerned because like people don't understand, like they are very delusional. Most people, if you say this stuff to them, they look at you and they think you're crazy. But like they are out of their minds. They don't understand the risk that is happening, like everything that is going on. Like, what do you think is going to happen when everyone builds their app on top of GPT-4 and then it pretty much spreads everywhere and then it starts scaling exponentially? Like, if you think that social media getting all your data and manipulating elections and causing all of the destruction that it does is already bad, imagine this like 100 billion times worse, because it's pretty much impossible to predict what's going to happen. That's the problem. Is like, and nobody understands what's going on with these models. So yeah, so I felt like I have to say this stuff here because even though there's not a lot of people that watch me, there is a chance that I can have an impact on someone, and then they know someone that has influence, and they can increase the probabilities that there will be more regulation on this faster. And I think even though like if you regulate everyone, there is the chance that this allows for other people to create faster. I think it is a situation that is just a lose-lose. There's not like, by racing with them, you don't increase the probabilities that you're gonna win, because when you win, everyone loses. That's the thing that people don't understand. It's like, it's not like you're gonna be able to put God in a box and then you're just gonna push the button off if he tries to get out. Like, that's such a stupid way to think about it. Is that it doesn't make any sense at all. Just think logically, like if you like, are you gonna create God to completely isolate it from the world and never interact with it? If that's the reason, then why are you creating God? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And if you're gonna interact with it, like, don't you think there's a slight chance that it will figure out, not even if you don't interact, but maybe it will figure out a way to change matter or to change the structure of space-time in such a way that it teleports itself out of the jail? Because you don't know what's extremely powerful intelligence can do. It's like, just think about the notion of a monkey. Like, we are monkeys and we lose to any other animals, like in the vast majority of ways. The only thing that we have is intelligence. And because of that, we dominate everything on the planet. Because, and just by looking at a human being, like thousands of years ago, it would be pretty much impossible to predict that that human being would land on the moon, like thousands of years later. So it's pretty much the same thing here, but exponentially more, exponentially faster. It's like even incomprehensible to understand like what can happen in just a few months from now. And it sounds ridiculous to say, but like, it's a very real possibility. That's the issue here. And people don't understand this. Like, they are in a delusional state because their body wants to keep going in the routine. Because their body is designed to make you spend less energy and take less risk. So everyone pretty much right now is in denial, and they want reality to continue going as it is going, and they assume that it will go as it always did. But the thing is that things can change extremely fast from the next months, and like few months from now, like who knows what's going to happen. And we're just increasing the probability because we don't have a framework and we don't have any study in place and any regulatory system. We're just increasing the probability that everything is going to break down. And like, in the worst case scenario is not even that everyone dies, is that we just collapse the whole system and then we have wars all over the place. and no more electricity or supply chain or anything like that. And then it's gonna be just everyone killing each other. And I certainly don't want that. So I feel like I have to say something here. And I'm obviously also I started studying this in the past couple of months already, like what you do in a catastrophe. But obviously, like, it's not a situation you're gonna win, and it doesn't matter how much you study. It's still like, it's like fighting. You're not gonna be prepared. Like, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. It's gonna be pretty much like that, and we're gonna be pretty much fucked if we don't do anything about it. Now, there is a chance, a small chance, that nobody does anything about it, and then it ends up being good. And I'm hoping for that. I think everyone should hope for that. You shouldn't like just get into this mentality of nihilism, because that's also not practical. It doesn't make any sense. So it's like the saying goes, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And that's the kind of mentality that I'm trying to have here. But you have to be realistic over preparing for the worst, because most people don't understand this. And this video like is the exact exemplification of this. And it kind of pisses me off, because like you can feel the arrogance in the people.
Research Institute, who says that if there is not an indefinite pause on AI development, this is a quote.
I mean, it puts back with the volume. Twitter is really slow with the videos lately. And also they opened the algorithm, but I haven't seen the algorithm yet.
There's an expert from the Machine Intelligence Research Institute who says that if there is not an indefinite pause on AI development, this is a quote, literally everyone on Earth will die. Would you agree that does not sound good?
Your delivery, Peter, is quite something.
It sounds crazy, but is it?
All I can say is,
like, this is the problem, is because it's so outside their reality that they don't, like, it's like they can accept that this is a real possibility that can happen. And like, once it happens, it's very analogous to drunk driving, I think, where everyone drinks and drives, but they never think they are going to be the ones in the accident. And that's why most people are arrogant when they drunk drive. But then until you smash your face on the asphalt, and then you're in coma and you killed all your friends in the car with you, and then you realize, like, oh shit, that's actually real. It's a very similar situation here. Like, everyone like thinks is going about their days, and then until like some really shitty thing happens with AI, like, who knows what can happen, and then like millions of people get killed, or billions, and then everyone is gonna finally realize, if we have time, and it might be too late at that point, and everyone just dies.
that there's a comprehensive process in place. We put out a blueprint back in October, as you know. I don't have anything to share. We have seen the letter. We understand what their concerns are. Again.
Fuck, this Twitter video is really bad.
A comprehensive process, we'll let that flow. Comprehensive process, we'll let that flow.
Yeah, but you got the point. I think you can watch the video for yourself. Is the reply on
self-aware.
Musk.
Look, we are
Tweet from Eliezer. So, and I highly recommend watching these two podcasts here, where he explains more about it, his perspective. Now, whether you agree or disagree, like, it doesn't really matter, like I said, because you have to acknowledge at least that, like, the risk of AI is exponentially higher than the risk of nuclear weapons. That's a no-brainer, pretty much. Like, you're amplifying, like, the probabilities is like putting nuclear weapons on steroids times 1 billion, like, because of the lack of control you have over it. But yeah, anyway, let me study this thing here. Yeah, but like I said, like, I'm not gonna be not gonna let this, like, I think we should go down fighting. So, like, even if there's nothing you can do about it and you know you're gonna die, like, there's no point in giving up, I think. You should just keep trying to make everything, like, increase the probability that everything will go great. Because if it does, in the small probability that things go well, then I think, like, reality is gonna be amazing pretty much, because everyone's gonna have like abundance, all problems will be solved, we'll be able to travel to other planets, space, like everything that can happen. It's gonna have an endless amount of content and endless amounts of different games you can play. So like the upside is very high. But the issue is that, like, things are evolving a lot faster than people can comprehend. And it's just a bad, like, if you look at history, it's just a dumb way to go about it. Like every other thing, you can make mistakes and then you can keep going. But this, if you make a mistake, like, the whole thing is fucked. So, like, we're playing very high stakes here. Like, so if you do some dumb shit, we are gonna die. That's the problem. And this also is something that I struggle with, because I don't know how to put the boundaries in myself as well. To how much of this stuff that I because I have no idea, like, what is going to be the impact, even though it might be very small on the small scale, like, but that's how everything happens on the large scale. It's like everyone acting on their own little bubble, thinking that it doesn't impact the whole system. But then, like, because everyone is acting on that way, it impacts everything. So this is another question that I'm asking myself, if I should incorporate this stuff on the things that I'm doing or not. Like, what do I do about it? It's very hard to make a decision, because you're just participating in the acceleration of this inevitable, or what seems to be inevitable, fate of self-destruction. And what scares me the most is that the Fermi paradox, the whole thing about why haven't we met aliens yet? Because from all of the stuff that I thought about for a long time, like, it's a very real possibility that the universe has a limit in the amount of intelligence you can have and the amount of power, and we are getting to the limit very, very fast, which means that, like, the self-destruction would be inevitable. But that's the more nihilistic view, I think, which hopefully I think it isn't true, because I think the truth is more in the middle, where, like, it's not that there are no aliens, and it's not like aliens are all over the place. I think it's somewhere in the middle and nuanced and complex. And I also definitely think that there must be several different ways that it can also work. Because the only way for ways to not work to exist is if there are ways in which it would work, I think. So I think it's definitely possible to find a solution. I just don't think that we are being very smart about it. Yeah, so here I made some modifications to have a navbar on the front, and now I put this button here that allows to change the layout, which calls the function which the other one already has. So the thing that I want to study is how the physics works on the layouts, which uses the physics engine from the forest layouts. Yeah, and I want to understand how to put events. I think I understand the event file library law, which pretty much works, like, it allows you to put custom events on, not custom events because it's always the same events, but you can put an event on any object you want when you put on the event file library. And then from that point, you can trigger a function based on events. So you can put the on and then the name of the event, and then put a callback function. And this allows you to make events for different objects in an easier way, I think. That's the point of the library. So here I decided to go with the way that he did it because I didn't want to figure out all the stuff, like how to get the image for the text. I think that's not worth. I think it was worth it to study just so I understand how it works, and I think I do understand now a lot better. And the queue I also understood is that when it initializes things, even though the queue is going to be empty, it's going to make this is ready true. So when it starts adding the nodes on the other function outside here, I think is this one or the other one. I think we draw labels, probably this one. The function where it puts the add text thing there, I think is this one, yeah. So it first creates that makes this thing equal true, and here it just initializes the event on the image. So this function doesn't run right away. This function is only gonna run when the image loads on the thing. So this may or may not happen before the add text on outside here, I think, on this function. But regardless of which one happens first, it's gonna check to see if the items are on the queue or not, and if they're not, it's gonna add them in the queue. And then it's gonna run through all the items anyway, because if it runs the add text outside first, then it's gonna loop through the queue here on this function. And if it runs here first, it's gonna put the elements on the queue here, and it's gonna add them when it goes through here. So regardless of which one happens first, because you're putting on the queue, if they're not, the other one is gonna put them on the program, put the text on the program. So that's how it works here. I think I'm gonna close this one. And here I think that it works with the way that I believe that animations work is that it creates a loop based on the create animation frame. It has a callback function that calls itself. So it's like a recursive function that keeps calling itself. And that's how the loop works. And I think that it starts here with this request animation frame, passing the frame. And then each time it calls this draw function, but the draw function doesn't change anything unless you explicitly run the run layout function, which activates the physics engine, I think. So that's what. So there's two things I want to accomplish. One is to put event listeners on the nodes, so I can click on them and drag the graph, and so I can do other things with them. Also figure out how to put event listeners on the canvas for the keyboard, and try to navigate the nodes with the keyboard. And the other, I forgot, but there's another thing that I want to do. Try to do. Oh yeah, understand the physics engine from the force layout. So I can create my own physics engine or incorporate another physics engine. Because obviously I don't want the graph. And also I named this graph 2D because I think that at some point, depending on how hard it is to set up the 2D graph, at some point I want to do the 3D graph one with 3GS as well. So this is the scene object from here. And then the render frame, I think, is just going to call the frame function as well. So I want to study the step here, the layouts. It's through here, but I think I'm going to study from here. Yeah, if you look, it's very simple, the library actually. It just, whatever object you put inside, it's just going to add this on fire and off events. So when you put the object, it becomes like, it allows you to put these event listeners on the object and make callbacks when the events happen. So it's like you're creating a subscriber and publisher model, I think. But I don't know, I still don't understand really well how it works on this one. At what point the events are made and how to change or add events to the canvas and to the graph. So this is gonna be a challenge, I think. I remember something about this API here, and I remember seeing the event, so I think I should do with API. API far mouse move. So I think I need to change or add stuff to the API. The problem is that I understand it, but I don't understand well enough to change, I think, in a way that is gonna do what I wanted to do. So I think it's gonna take me some time to understand it. I don't understand what regional events means as well. Yeah, but these are probably the functions that change. There's definitely the functions that change the graph based on the events. I think this is what allows it to click and then change the graph like this. But I think those are events for the sing, that's the thing. But they are not the events for the nodes. So I think the events for the nodes I should probably do separately, but then the question is where. And I should probably try to use the event file as well. Like use the same logic that is using here for the events of the sing. Hmm. So this is the event file that has all the events here. The thing is, should I study? Maybe I should study the other graphs, the other repositories. This is the physics engine from the force layout. I think I should focus on the event listeners first though, because it's easier to make sense of, so. Maybe I should try to look into the is also interesting, sure. Maybe, but I think it's not necessary to do like a bunch of changes when the graph is updated through the, but it might be beneficial that you move the camera to the node that was just added, for example. But I think this is stuff that I have to think about later. First, I need to think about how to add the nodes. Also needed to make it work with the data from the WebSocket because it's not working. It just, but this I think I'll look into later because it's annoying to set up the server and then send the data all the time. Oh, it's not this one. Is the graph start maybe? Or maybe just send graph. Has the examples. Yeah, so I think because it would be easier to, if I could, to get, to copy the code from this one into the one that I have now there. Oh, there's another repository here. Didn't know about this one. Interesting. So I think I can use this one to create there. The issue with this library is that it uses this require a lot, and I'm not really sure if I can do this on the way that I'm doing here because I'm doing with Svelte and I don't really understand really well how it works. With Next.js, I understand like there is a separation between the server side because it renders everything on the server and then goes to the client. So you have to put type of window undefined to put server-side code, or you have to put on the special functions from Next.js. But here on Svelte, I don't understand really well how this boundary works, if there is any boundary. I think there is a boundary, but I'm not really sure. Don't know if Svelte renders everything on the server or not. So I think this is the API that connects these events with the program. So you can call functions outside to communicate with the WebGL program. But I don't think that this is related to the nodes. Like it obviously is because it creates the texture and the visualization of the nodes. But I don't think I should put the event listeners for the nodes on this API here. I think it should be outside. the program. I think I should put probably on the node objects, but I'm not 100% sure. I think maybe it doesn't make sense to put it on the node object as well, because like it just doesn't make sense. Because the node class should be its own thing, I think. So maybe it makes more sense to create another file. But I think I'm gonna copy from this one here, if I can. How to put the event listeners. Hopefully everything goes well with AI. I've been thinking about this for years now. Like all the time. It's more frustrating because everyone, like, you can't talk to anyone because they will think you're crazy. But I think now is being more acceptable to talk about it because it's more real to people after GPT-4. But it's still obviously a giant stigma, I think. So here's the place where it has all the functions. And I assume it passes the canvas here, probably. It's on the lib down events. So I was using this object. I created a tier, I think. the beginning. So I'm thinking about it now. Maybe I should change everything just because it's gonna be easier. But maybe it's more beneficial to try to adapt my code with this one because I'm gonna learn more. Because it's gonna be harder, but I'm not really sure. As obviously it would be easier to just get rid of the code that I have now and just copy this one because it has more things that I want included into it, and then I can start from this one to add the extra stuff that I'm gonna try to add. It's gonna be difficult to change the code either way. But I think I get how he's doing everything here. So the only thing I would have to change would be the create sync, which obviously would change everything. But then I will add this file here, and then I will add the graphics API instead of creating the scene. And the graphics API has all the information for the scene as well. Oh, and this is the file that contains, I think, all the 22,000 lines of code, I think. It's probably all the code for the Fabric library. Yeah, I'm thinking I should probably copy everything. Just because it's gonna be easier, and then I start with this baseline instead of the other one. So I don't have to lose a bunch of time trying to adapt the code that I have to this one. Because I'm still gonna have to change this one to add the stuff that I wanna add. It's gonna be really similar, I think. So pass the canvas ID, it uses that. So I was using the Eventify thing. Yeah, so it's very similar logic to the other one. So this file allows us to put the events, custom events, I think. Or not custom events because it's always going to be on, off, or fire. But it allows you to put custom objects, events on custom objects that are the on, fire, and off. And then after you put those events, then you can change the state of the object based on the callback function and the events that you're emitting or sending. And so it uses window if there isn't the server. And there's probably stuff saying how to use the thing. Yeah, I think I should just download everything. I didn't know that there was this library. I thought that was just the example because I didn't click on the link. So this is why I started with the other one. But I think started with this one's much better. The other thing is the images here. How does it create the thing? There's several examples as well. I mean, maybe it's because Fabric doesn't use WebGL. I don't know if it uses or not. I think it doesn't because there is no WebGL code there. There's no program. So actually it might be worth it to try to see if I can incorporate this on the other one. Because I want to use WebGL, I think. Because it's faster. So the thing is this one, repository. It creates the graph. Yeah, but if I use this fabric, maybe I don't have the option to use WebGL. I should probably read the documentation on fabric. So it uses the create graph. Hmm. The thing is that the create graph doesn't create the things on the canvas. It just creates the structure, I think. Yeah, on this thing here, it creates the context. So this is what I have to find. But I think with fabric, it probably creates with the library there. So the graph is not the parts. Let me go back to this one. And this one doesn't work. Or maybe this. Oh, it's not working. I think that's how done. So it's using this library, Pixie Graphics. Oh, so it does use WebGL. Nice. Oh, this is a problem. Fuck, maybe I should go the other route then. But it looks a lot easier to start with this one. The problem is I want something that allows for having large graphs. Because I assume most of the scripts are gonna be large graphs. Maybe this one is faster than Fabrics. Ah, interesting. So by default already has the stuff that I want. Oh, but it's probably moving the scene instead of moving from node to node with the keyboard. Nice. So I think that this is the best one probably. It allows both 3D and 2D and has everything that I want. And it's also a lot easier to put the events. Yeah, this is gonna be the one, I think. I'm even gonna start this, I think. Oh, I already forked this. So I think I'm gonna go back and focus on this one. The problem is so many. Like there's so many repositories. I'm gonna start from the beginning. It looks like this Pixel one is faster than the other one. Yeah, and also has everything that I want. It's probably better. The Pixie thing. I just want to start from the top from that one. I think it's the same here. Yeah. So this is the top. Nice. This one, because it's 3D, I think you can't really click. It just changes the camera position when you click. But there's no other events. Hmm. Yeah, so I think it looks really simple. All I have to do is instead of creating the scene, is put this render graph there. I'm definitely gonna use this one. Just wanna see. I'm gonna start from the top level here, and I'm gonna investigate all the repositories to understand more how it works. And I think I'm gonna delete everything that I have here from this one, all these files, and then start with the other one. It seems like a much better approach. So I should probably close all the other files, all the other tabs. So we can fork this. I'm just forking so I have it later. In case like I think it's unlikely that he's gonna remove, but just in case. I wanna understand how this one uses WebGL, but I think it uses on under the hood on the Pixie thing. But I wanna understand how it creates the nodes, because then depending on how it creates, I might have to either incorporate the ones that I have here or delete the ones that I have because they're not useful anymore. And I think this library probably handles everything, like the communication with WebGL. Nice. I'm surprised that it's very hard to find about this stuff here. Like, it's a lot easier to find information about the 3JS, VJS, and the Chart.js. But this seems to be much better than all of them. And let me start from the top, the other repository. I'm gonna close this stuff here for now. I'll just leave this stuff open and end up not using. Well, let's start from here. Oh, actually, yeah, this is the one. Oh, okay, this allows you to move the nodes. Nice. And also it's changing color. So it doesn't allow to move the edges, but it does allow to move the nodes. Yeah, this is perfect, I think, for what I want to do. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna delete the other one. It seems like the obvious move to make. I think I'm gonna start over from scratch. I'm gonna delete all of these files here. The only problem is the way that it creates the graph that I don't know yet how it does it. And I'm gonna delete the packages. I think the other ones are probably necessary. The events and force layouts. Yeah, so I think it's better to study them first, one by one, and then I'll try to implement the most advanced one, I think. Which I think should be the 6 or the 5. That has everything that I want. It's similar to the other one. Pretty much the same function. Yeah, the other one used. The draw graph is slightly different though. Yeah, because this makes probably a lot. Yeah, it does make things a lot easier because then it's probably doing all the WebGL stuff that the other one did, but under the hood, under this library here. I wonder. Oh, so you can choose the style here based on the graphics. Interesting. Yeah, there are no event listeners on this one. Oh, this is the same layout, same structure that I used on the other one that I was doing. I don't remember really well. The thing that I still don't understand is how, but I think that's the Pixie graph creates the node, so I don't need to have the PNG file and the font file or the labels, because this library does it. The graphics. Render frame. So I have to study the Pixie library to understand more how it works. And then from that, it seems like it creates an API from this library to the WebGL. So it handles all the WebGL stuff. And then use ngraph to create the graph and use Pixie to render the graph with WebGL. Okay, so nice. I'm gonna read the documentation probably. First, I'm gonna finish studying this. Yeah, I think with this one it's gonna be a lot easier though, because all I have to do, it seems like everything is already set up from what I want to do. All I would have to do is to change the events to put the stuff that I want to do. I think that part's still gonna be hard, because I need to figure out how to make, so communicate with the data from the front end and back end, and then make the whatever functionality I wanna add. With the, also I would have to, I'm probably gonna have to figure out at some point how to put the IDE on the website. So the idea that I have is like maybe in one page, not in this page, but it could be on this page as well, where you put the code on the IDE. Then when you click run, then it sends the code to the server. Probably I can do with JSON. But then obviously it's very complicated because of security. But then with that data, I would create a graph based on the set trace, and then send the data of the stack frames as an array to the front end again, and then reconstruct the graph in whatever. Then maybe I can allow the person to choose different options of display of visualization. And then depending, I create different functions to handle the events that the thing gets from the stack frame. So the good thing is that I can always pass everything as a list of objects, I think, because inside of each object, I can put global and local variables and more other information, like maybe all the information for each stack frame. And then I can just send in the array strings that determine like which event it is. And then based on that, I can create the control flow of that to basically replicate the same logic of the stack trace on the front end. And then with that, I can create custom functions that allow me to display the graph in different ways depending on what kind of script you have. And then I can add the functionality and allow the person to visualize what is happening on the script execution. And then obviously, like, the thing that I don't know as well is that like it would be good if I could just have a bunch of different libraries on the project, and then it would allow the person to like put the functions for a whole project, because then you don't need to put all the functions, you just put the main function. But that is like, because I think the only way to do that would be if I create something that somehow communicates with the user operational system. But I'm not sure if that's possible. But I could create templates, obviously. So on top of allowing the option for people to run their own scripts, I can create custom visualizations based on the data I scrape from the web. Like Kaggle, for example, can create a web scraper that just gets all the scripts from Kaggle and then creates a bunch of visualizations of all of them. And then I can create a machine learning model that creates an abstract of what are the fundamental parts of the functions that are run. Well, it's the same on all of the scripts, and you can do the same with Stack Overflow and GitHub, I think. Like maybe add some functionality that it searches the URL from, it searches the URL you give for code, and then from that code, it reconstructs the stack trace that you would have. But obviously, like, this is something that I have to think about because of the AI thing as well. And it's very difficult for me to think about the line there, like, because it depends on the context. And obviously, I don't know like how much influence I have, like probably not much, but it's still something. Like, because this is another like thing with the YouTube channel that is hard, because in one way, like, you think that like there isn't a lot of influence, but the thing is that after some point you can't really control like how much it grows, because it grows exponentially, because it's based on the laws of physics and gravity. That's how things work. So like usually the more subscribers you have, it grows exponentially. Not always, I think, but most of the time, because of it's just a byproduct of physics, just gravitational force based on moment of inertia of the mass of the information that is going in. So the issue with these things is that it's unpredictable. Like it might seem that I don't have a lot of influence now, but then maybe I'll build this thing, and then from this thing someone else builds something else, and then it creates this cascade effect that increases the probability that things will collapse. And it sounds crazy, I think, but I think it's very realistic to think about this, especially like, but maybe I don't have any influence because it's gonna happen already. But then there's the whole argument about the arms race, where like regardless of which way you go about it, you're just, even if you say that you don't have any influence, you're just accelerating the self-destruction, because you're increasing the velocity that the thing gets there. So it's like, congratulations, you made a bunch of money and now everyone's dead. It doesn't make any sense. It's hard to navigate, because at the same time you can't like just stay still and do nothing, obviously. So everyone's forced in this position, and that's why people in OpenAI are doing what they are doing. Is like, not they're bad people, it's just that they are inserted in the system that forces everyone to acting this dumb way, because no one is intelligent enough to create a better system. They have better game theory that increases the probability of being more sustainable over time. I want to understand the events on this one before I move to the next one. So this one, I think it doesn't use Eventify. Just puts the events there. Now let's go to the next one. Oh, fuck. Yeah, these ones are a lot easier to understand as well because there's a lot less code. So just better all around, I think, than the other ones. And this adds node events. But they still don't have a label though. That's the thing. I wonder if he's gonna talk about the labels. You probably have something on this documentation here about labels, textures, text. So I think I'm just gonna look at the last one, and then I'm gonna study the documentation upstream. And I'm definitely gonna use this one. It's much better than the other one. It's much easier. Has everything that I need. It's gonna be easier to customize, I think, with extra stuff. And also allows both 2D and 3D, which is exactly what I want. Yeah, this one is the one. I'm gonna copy this repo here probably. And I think I'm gonna try to make it so that I download all the source code instead of using Yarn. And then I just import all the libraries. Like, so I have like integrated in the project, and I don't have them as dependencies. Because I like to reduce the amount of dependencies I have as much as possible. Because that way there's like fewer points of failure, I think. But I think like the other thing is that I'm not really doing this as for now, at least, to make it live, I think. Because I'm not gonna be able to put this on Vercel because it requires Flask. So it requires a server. But I might look into how to do that. But the idea that I have, at least in the beginning, is to use this for myself, because I think it's going to be extremely useful. Like, to study everything and to also debug everything. And obviously, it would be great as well if I can incorporate other languages as well, which is something that I might try to do as well. So try to incorporate Rust and JavaScript, for example, would be massive, I think. Because then I can like optimize everything to make it easier to study everything on these languages. Especially the memory side, like the differences in the way the language handles memory and the way that it handles variables and things like that. I think would be very, very interesting exercise. So it's very simple here because it's abstracting everything away for the other libraries, but I need to study all the other ones so I understand more which one works and how it works under the hood. And this one, I also think it doesn't have the labels, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to put the labels. It doesn't have any labels. And labels are necessary because it's very big parts, I think, of what I'm doing. Yeah, but I think I'm gonna study this off stream because I'm gonna have to read probably gonna read all the documentation and then try to. I think I'm just gonna download these files here and incorporate on my project, and then try to put labels based on the documentation here. I'll do this off stream, and I'm probably gonna come back tomorrow. But if not, maybe 2 days from now to continue to do this.